Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. This week, I will be covering all the games from the Chinese Go Sage final between Ke Jie 9P and Tu Xiaoyu 9P. This video is about their first game. Get your chips, beers, and Kleenex ready. Let's get started.
Tu Xiaoyu is playing as black and Ke Jie is playing as white, and the game starts with this type of fuseki, where Ke Jie takes the 3-3 point. Black approaches, white kicks, black extends, and now white jumps. And here, Tu Xiaoyu plays a very creative move that is taking Ke Jie out of book. So, of course, the normal Joseki would be playing the 3 space, either low extension or high extension. But today, Tu Xiaoyu decides to play something very creative. This is not a move that I understand because it doesn't put enough pressure against white's 3-3 stone, and it doesn't really protect the 2 stones over here. So this is definitely just a kind of move that tries to drag opponent into an unfamiliar territory. White now plays the pincer. And the next move, we can see Tu Xiaoyu's strategy in this game is really trying to play these fancy moves that nobody has seen before. Maybe he has studied on this type of Joseki, but this is very rare to happen, especially in a final game. So against this type of fuseki, my recommendation to my viewers would be, if you don't really understand what your opponent's up to, you should usually tanuki here, right? If you play something like the jump, maybe your opponent has studied on this type of thing. So it's better, especially in a tournament, to just like play what Ke Jie played in the game. That is to take the 3-3 for the, play something we're familiar with and take something that has big value. That cannot go wrong. Black blocks, white crawls, black plays the Keima, inviting a Mies Joseki. White refuses that, black blocks on top, and white hanes. And here, Tu Xiaoyu comes back and played the big Keima in the center. This is a very nice follow-up. Next up, we have Ke Jie approaching the corner. Black plays the Kosumi to defend. And here, white plays the jump over here. This is a very common follow-up. So sometimes you might encounter this in your actual game. So I will spend a little bit of time covering the theory a little bit. When white plays the peep, what white is hoping black to do is to simply block here, which a lot of us would do. But this would be falling into a trap because white can now push like this. Now we see white shape has no problem, but black has a miai, right? Black has a hane here with a very serious weakness. If black fixes the weakness, white will hane and then probably double hane. And this puts black in a very weird situation where, if black extends, later on white still has this keima to poke at black's shape. And this just puts a lot of pressure on black, and later on white can come back. For example, after some exchanges, white can think about pincering black like this, and then building on the left side. So this is a slightly better position for white, and it's uncomfortable for black. But if black decides to extend out, then there's a bigger problem because white can hane inside. If black cuts, white extends, and we can see this is a very tough fight for black, right? And of course, white can try different variations to even put more pressure on black stones. So black doesn't want to get into that. But if black tries to dodge the fight, it's not going to work because white won't let black off the hook. And this is very difficult to deal with because these 2 stones are pretty much captured. So that would not be a great position to be in. So the idea here is to not immediately respond. Rather, it's to play a testing move against white. If white connects on the 3rd line, then this peep is not very useful because black can just push through and cut the stone off. So here white has to connect on the 4th line for that peep to work. But then black can play what Ke Jie played in the actual game. That is to test white first, right? Before we deal with our weakness, we want to attack our opponent's weakness, which is a very common idea in middle game fight. If white just blocks, black hanes, white hanes, black atari, white has to connect, and black atari at 2-2. White cuts, black takes, and white now extends. Now, because the placement of the stone here, we see that there's a lot of weaknesses that white has, so black can make use of the weakness and cause problems. But if the white stone was on the 3rd line, this would be a lot better for white. White can actually choose this variation and fight black. But this is not going to work in this game because the white stone is on the 4th line. So since that doesn't work, white has to choose the second main variation, that is to simply squeeze here. Black harness, white harness, and black now connects. And here, white decides to protect the corner. Of course, white can also block here. The idea is to make sure that black's connection is a gote, right? So when black's connection becomes a gote, the outside is weaker. However, later on, black has a very big endgame that is the clamp here. White has to connect, and then black just connects through. We can see this is a lot of points. So it's a matter of choice. In the actual game, white decides to block in the corner and protect the territory. Black connects. It's a sente. White has to connect, and black now blocks on top. We can see that black managed to play super well against white's attack and managed to have a perfect shape. And white just got some territory in the corner. So this is very well played by black, and black is gaining a slight advantage with this local Joseki. White now plays the peep. This forces black to connect. Of course, since white didn't really make a huge mistake or anything, so the game is still more or less equal. But I think from a human perspective, the fact that black can become so thick on the outside is a good thing for a human player. So white now plays the 2-space jump. This is a very beautiful move. Like the shape-wise is just the best. If you play something like this would be too slow, leaving the opportunity for black to cap white on top. So this is the ideal move for white to play in this situation. Black now plays the keima. This is a very big move. If black plays somewhere else, for example, then white is going to come to play this, right? Not only white encloses a lot of territory, but also puts pressure on black's group. So black kind of had to play this keima, which is absolutely huge, builds on the right side as well. And at this point, white comes back to deal with the corner in here. Black peeps, and white blocks on top. So if white just connects, this would be an inaccurate move because this is too passive. Black can simply jump on the 5th line. And this puts white in an awkward situation, right? If white really wants to play in the center because that's where the battlefield is, but then black can get this 2nd line jump, forcing white to block like this. We can see like this corner is very confined and it's not very comfortable. So white doesn't want to get into that situation, but if white plays the counterattack over here, then black will simply push and block. And this is also very annoying for white because white can't really extend. There's obviously some cutting issues that white has on the outside. So if white connects, preventing the cutting issue, then black can play the tiger's mouth. And we can see that these 2 stones, because of the liberty problems, is feeling very awkward as well, right? And this move is just poking at white's shape, and it's very uncomfortable for white. So Ke Jie did not like the variation where he connects, nor did he like it when he blocks on the outside. Therefore, he crawls on the 3rd line. That's the only choice left. Black blocks on top, white connects, and here Xiaoyu plays a beautiful move. Most of us would just kind of connect the stone back with the Kosumi, which is a very solid move. But then when white plays the keima, we can see white's corner is very comfortable. White has a lot of territory, and then black has to figure out how to attack the 3 stones. So I'm not saying that black is behind in this variation. It's just that black has a tougher task on hand. Like, how do you attack these 3 stones, right? Humans are not necessarily the best at dealing with this type of situation. That's why in the actual game, Xiaoyu plays a more efficient move, right? If now you play the keima, at least my stone is here, not here, right? So this stone would put a lot of pressure on black. Maybe the follow-up, I'm not exactly sure, but maybe the follow-up is for black to play the pincer here. We can see that this coordinates with the stone over here, and that's a lot more pressure. So when Xiaoyu plays the keima, Ke Jie follows the principle of counterattack. So instead of just taking the territory, white plays the counterattack over here, poking at black's shape. Black counterattacks as well, because if black plays soft, which is, at their level, you cannot play soft or slow, especially in this type of fight. If you play something like this, then white can kick and then play the tiger's mouth, and we can see white connects back while making black's influence vanish. So black cannot play like that. In this type of high-level game, black has to counterattack. White bumps into black, and black blocks on top. Very well played move by black, right? Locally, because you choose to fight, it's a very difficult fight for black. Black is broken into pieces. So if you can't fight, then don't fight. You can focus on what's important. That's building your right side. And at this point, Ke Jie decides to Tanuki locally and play in the center. This is a slightly questionable move. The shape move is of course for white to just jump. But Ke Jie was definitely worried about Xiaoyu playing the Keima. We can see the shape is very nice. And this move is kind of like the shape move against white as well. So it's a perfect move for black. And maybe Ke Jie was thinking, well, if my opponent has an obvious perfect move next, then probably I'm doing something wrong. And therefore, in the actual game, he decided to play the Keima. The problem with playing the Keima is that black has a very fierce counterattack, that is to attach here. That's the shape move against this formation. Now this creates a miai. If white hanes to protect the cutting point here, black will bump into white and cut, and this is very difficult for white to deal with. Probably this is the way to go for white, right? We can just play Atari and Tiger's Mouth, but then we can see that even if black adds a move here, we ladder the stone and black has a lot of potential on the bottom. So white doesn't really want that to happen. Now, if white plays the extension, then black is going to hane and double hane, and then white is in serious trouble because these two stones are cut off. So even if white plays a shape move like this, black will still play this, this bump and cut. So same problem, right? White probably going to lose this stone because this group is more important. So this is not very pleasant for white either. Fortunately for Ke Jie, in the actual game, Xiaoyu did not go for this counterattack. Instead, black decides to play the second line move, which is a very big move and encloses a lot of territory on the right side, also threatening the life and death for white as well. White plays the counterattack, and black, before black defends the cutting point, black decides to attack white first. You can see like when 9-dan professionals are playing against each other, it's really about attacking, counterattacking all the time. It's never like one side passively defending, which is something that we can learn from them. White hanes, black pulls the stone back, and white plays the tiger's mouth, because otherwise black has a squeeze. If you play anything else, there's a squeeze here, and this stone won't be able to get home. So tactically, white has to respond to that, and then black bumps into white. The next move, Ke Jie played very aggressive, that is to extend down. Just from the shape, you can see that this is super aggressive because there's so much weaknesses. And of course, black is not going to passively defend, therefore he attaches and try to break white into pieces. White has to connect, black plays the wedge, white Atari, black connects, and white blocks on top. Black cuts, aiming at the double Atari, white connects, and black now extends, trying to control the two stones over here. So temporarily, white doesn't really want to fight here because it's quite dangerous. Therefore, white decides to play the peep here first. If you want to dive deeper and support what I'm doing, check out my Patreon. I regularly post exclusive high-quality content on Joseki's pro game breakdowns and even full courses, stuff you won't find anywhere else. The link is in the description. Thanks so much. Let's continue. Because if black cuts here, white doesn't have to ladder black. White can simply just net the black stone. Black runs out, and then we can see that this stone is helping out for this netting. So black cannot cut anymore after white plays the peep here. Also, this peep is aiming at the weakness, obviously. In the actual game, black doesn't connect, which is the correct move to play. Black plays somewhere else. So these two stones are not that important at this moment, and therefore black is focusing on what's important. That is to suppress white here and also build territory over here. See, black even didn't play something like this. This would be a lot of people's intuition, right? Like this is a very, like encloses a giant amount of territory. Like I would probably have thought about this, but for top professional players, it's their pursuit for maximum efficiency, right? We're trying to attack white while building our territory over here. Very efficient moves, and this is probably one of the best moves that you can play. White now starts an attack against the entire black group. Now black cannot Tanuki anymore because it's about life and death for the whole thing. So black now connects. White plays the Keima, black plays Kosumi, white pushes, black hane, white hanes, and black extends. Temporarily, black is okay. Black can still breathe. And white decides to invade black here first instead of trying to chase this group further. So this is a must-play move in my opinion, because otherwise black gets this whole thing and it's very difficult for white to compete in terms of territory. So black here can obviously not like passively defend here. The more you try to defend, the more problem white is going to cause here. So instead of defending, the way to solve your problem is through counterattack. Black turns here, very well played by Xiaoyu. White turns, black harness, and now white goes for a very fierce fight, not only aiming at this cutting point, but also aiming at the cutting point at the center. So we have a very fierce fight breaking out. Black plays the extension. So this is slightly inaccurate according to AI. Here the AI recommendation is for black to squeeze here first. When white connects, black will play the Kosumi. When white extends, then black can connect the two stones, the whole group back, and go for this liberty fight. The idea for black is that white, black is expecting white to play the two space extension, extending the liberties. But then when black plays the jump, we can see that this jump is really weakening white's group over here. But this jump is also a sente against corner because there's a monkey's jump to get home, and then it's going to kill white. So white has to respond to this move, which allows black to either play something here, which is very dangerous for white, right? White pretty much cannot allow black to play another move. So this would be the best way for black to defend the threats. But of course, it's not easy to read out an AI variation like that perfectly. So in the actual game, black plays the extension move, which is very intuitive because this is looking at trying to kill white. White has to block, and now black plays the tiger's mouth. Very aggressive by Xiaoyu. The tiger's mouth is pretty much saying that the whole thing over here is just dead. However, it's really not close to that, right? This is extremely complicated inside. It's a very tough liberty fight to read out, basically. White plays the extension. This is the best way to extend the liberties, and we see a giant liberty fight between this group that is not even connected yet versus white's group over here. Black plays the attach, trying to tighten white's liberty. So the attach obviously is a very nice Tetsuji, but it's not accurate according to AI. The AI variation, this is just to show you guys what the AI variation is. I don't think any human can actually play out this variation. It's just too insane. So AI recommends the second line peep, white blocks, and black simply connects the whole group, extending the liberties. White plays a 3-space extension, which is already very impossible to read out. Black jumps, white jumps, black crawls the stone back, white extends, and here black has a Tetsuji to attach at the shape. White pushes through, black cuts, white Atari, black connects, and white now capture the stone. Black extends in the center, that's a sente, we're trying to capture the 3 stones, so white has to defend that. And black plays the extension, trying to cut here, and at this moment, white will simply push through here. And weirdly, AI says, you know what, let's go for a trade, which I absolutely don't understand. And then it's going to end like this. So white managed to pierce through here, and black captures everything in here. And AI says, at this point, the game is a 50-50. I mean, who on earth understands this variation? But I just want to show you because I think it is super cool. Okay, so Xiaoyu is a human, so he plays a more understandable move because we know this move will tighten white's liberty. White harness, black pulls the stone back, white plays the tiger's mouth, black plays the second line peep. So the idea is that white doesn't have time to push and cut here because white's liberty is quite low as well. So white needs to extend the liberties and come back to try to cut black. White plays the Kosumi, black squeezes, and white extends out. Black plays the Keima, and now white uses this Tetsuji to get himself out. This is a very nice Tetsuji to break out. Black blocks, white now pushes. Black blocks on top, and here white extends. This is a sente, or else there's a cutting point. So black turns here first, and then come back and fix this very fatal weakness. And at this point, white cuts, black extends, white pushes, and black extends. So at this point, black doesn't even have the courage to turn here, because after white plays the Hane, which is a sente, I'm looking to throw in Atari, so black has to answer that, then white can push like this. When black gets these 2 stones safe, white will extend once again. So I'm trying to capture the whole group, and also I'm trying to extend here, right? If black runs out, then white can extend, and good luck to these 3 stones. Probably not going to escape. So that is the reason why at this point, black extends towards the center, and white now pushes through. Get this group out. And black cuts in the center, white Atari, and give up the 4 stones, and therefore liberating the whole group over here. The result of this is black captured 8 points over here while saving the group, and white pierced through entire moyo that black had, and also leave a bunch of weaknesses over here. Next up, we have white exploiting the weaknesses. Black turns, white Atari, black keeps going, white Atari, and black extends on the first line. White Atari on top, and black captures and take. And here white connects, black blocks. And at this point, we can see that this locally is a ko, right? If white extend, it becomes a ko. But there's no rush to do it because a move over here is now really, really important. So if white extends like this, then black is in a clamp in the center, and it's very hard to deal with. White cannot push through because black can cut and white is collapsing. But if white hane on top, black Atari, white extends, black captures, white blocks, and here black simply blocks on top. We can see how much territory black gained. This is not acceptable for white. So because of the presence of such a giant move over here, white doesn't really have time to start the ko right now. In the actual game, white plays the kosumi. Black double hane. I really love this choice from black because usually this is a bad Joseki variation, but in our case, because white is very overconcentrated, this is a perfect choice for black. Black hane in the corner, white had the capture, black hane, white blocks, black Atari, white connects, and here black plays the 3-space extension, the biggest move on the board right now, expanding the territory over here. White jumps on the second line, completely destroying the territory. Otherwise, black has an attach and cut, and then that will secure a lot of territory. So white sees that, and white gets rid of that possibility. Not only this gets rid of the possibility, but also black is worrying about the life and death. Therefore, he had to play some shape move to try to live in here. And that's a very nice Tsuji because it gives the possibility of the tiger's mouth. So at this point, the game is still completely equal. And it's very chaotic, as you can see, right? The game is still like so not settled. And there's a lot of endgame. There's also the question if like black can live comfortably here. So that takes a lot of skills as well. So let's see what happens. White now plays the Keima in the center, right? Looking at the weaknesses that this black stone has. Instead of defending, black goes for a counterattack, trying to reduce white's potential. White attaches, black hanes, white extends, making some ice space in the center, protecting the security. And black now plays the bump. White bumps into black, black extends, white connects. And here black pushes, white plays the tiger's mouth, black clamps, white hanes, black hanes extend, block, and white now plays the block on top. This is looking at the Atari. But before that, black will exchange this Atari with white's connect, and black now plays the connect on the second line. So the connection over here, of course, is very big, but there's a bigger move on the board right now that is for black to play the tiger's mouth. And this is exactly what Xiaoyu should have played. Because not only this secures a lot of ice space for black, but it also it's a pressuring move against white's corner because we know there's a tiger's mouth coming. So even if white's corner has no life and death issues, later on, for example, black can play this type of move, and this is all sente, right? White has to respond to that. So in terms of endgame, the follow-up is absolutely huge. That's why the tiger's mouth is very important. In the actual game, Xiaoyu connects on the second line, which is a mistake. And at this point, white seizes the opportunity to attack black, and black is in some serious trouble. Black squeezes, white connects, and black now jumps on the second line. Very well played Tsuji by Xiaoyu. White plays the Kosumi, and we see the value of the tiger's mouth, right? If black had the tiger's mouth, this won't happen, and white won't gain this much territory. Black plays the bamboo, and white now attaches into black. Black hanes, white cuts, black extends, securing the connection on top. White Atari, black cuts, and white now attaches over here, absolutely breaking the shape that black has. Right, so this is all because black did not play the tiger's mouth. So at this point, black is in a very painful situation. Black has to connect. White squeezes into black. Black connects on top. And now white captures. black has to live, right? At first glance, it looks like how does black live here? But this is all calculated out by two Xiaoyu. Two Xiaoyu Hanes, white blocks, and black plays the eye making. So there's one eye, and then there's potential to make a second eye. And white now plays a tiger's mouth himself as well. So before white tries to kill black, white has to watch out for his own dragon, right? I don't see an eye in the middle. I see maybe half an eye over here. So white needs to play another move here to make sure that this group is okay. And at this point, black plays the squeeze, white connects, and black connects in the corner. The idea is that if white breaks this eye, then black has this extension to live, right? So when you break my eye, I can just connect back towards this group. So life and death wise, there's no problem. And therefore, black takes this super big endgame, the biggest endgame right now, away from white. Okay, so at this point, in the actual game, white decides to fight this ko. And this is a very big decision for Tu Xiaoyu to make. Tu Xiaoyu can choose to kind of just kill the focusing on killing the 5 stones. In the actual game, black blocks over here, and white, instead of playing the ko right away, which is not, this is not necessarily a flower ko, right? So if white loses the ko, then black becomes very strong. Black can capture the stone and save these 2 stones. Black also can turn on the first line, try to break into white's territory. So Ke Jie at this point is obviously leading because of the mistake that, black did not play the tiger's mouth. So it's not Ke Jie is not liking the idea of trying to fight this ko. Yeah, he wants to win in the most stable way possible. So in the actual game, Ke Jie takes the end game away. This is absolutely huge. If you play somewhere else, then black can connect here first, right? We're looking at the snapback and then connect here. This is a lot of points. So white playing here, it's a huge endgame. And at this point, instead of peacefully trying to capture this and letting white take here, Tu Xiaoyu realizes that he will lose this game if he plays like this. He doesn't have enough points. He's not behind by a lot, but he's behind. And that gap of 2 to 3 points, it's not possible to catch up against Ke Jie this late into the game. So in the actual game, he played a very bold move, that is the capture over here. White Atari and black simply connects the 3 stones back, which is absolutely insane to me, because when white Atari, this becomes a immediate ko. White takes, black now goes for the ko threat in the center, and this is probably the final fight given how serious this ko is. So this is definitely a ko threat. Otherwise, there will be connection issues, and white will die top and bottom. So white has to defend it. Black takes back. White now extends on the first line, threatening the life and death over here. Black obviously has to answer, and he decides to answer like this. White takes. Black pushes. White has to connect. Black takes back, and white pushes in the center. All absolute ko threats. White takes back, and black plays the Hane. This is obviously also a ko threat. Otherwise, we play the Kosumi. Entire corner is dead. White has to Atari. Black takes back. White pushes. Black connects. White takes back, and here black plays over here, trying to squeeze here and cause 2 cutting points. White has to defend that. Black takes back, and white bumps into black. If black captures the 6 stones, then white's going to turn here, right? Threatening the life and death of the dragon and also the corner. So black cannot allow that. Black has to block. White now takes back. Black takes over here. Another sente, otherwise I'm going to push. Then white needs to fix it. This is fixing in the most efficient way possible. Black takes back, and white Hanes on the first line. Black has to go back and connect with the main group. White takes back, and black connects. This is another sente. White has to connect in the center. Black takes back. White plays another ko threat. Black has to respond to that. White takes back, and at this point, black uses a very big point losing ko threat. This is such a painful ko threat for black to play, but black doesn't have any ko threats left. Therefore, that's the only move he can find. White captures over here. This is so painful for black, but it has to be done because this allows black to temporarily survive. And at this point, Ke Jie plays the final killing move, that is the attach over here. So instead of responding to this or take the ko, black decides to jump over here. The idea is to trying to create some ko threats, and hopefully he can respond to this move. He really wants to respond, but if he responds right now, when white takes, there's no co-threats left. So he tries to create co-threats on the outside, a very advanced idea. White understands that, therefore he focuses on just making sure this group doesn't have any co-threats. He jumps out, black jumps in the center, making sure there's no eye over here. White plays the triangle, black blocks, and now white connects in the center. Black has to connect, and now white connects. White extends into the center. We can see that this group has no problem and it's connecting home. And at this point, Tu Xiaoyu decided to resign. The reason Tu Xiaoyu resigned is because at this point, of course, black can just capture like this. However, white can clamp on the second line. And the life and, not the life and death, the liberty fight over here is white kills black. Why is that? Because if black extends, white pushes, black pushes, white cuts. Now, it looks like this is 3 versus 3, but because of the first line stone, if black goes for the liberty fight, then white can hane. Black Atari, white can connect, and we can see why this first line stone is so important, because at this point, black cannot fill in. So black Atari, white connects, and white gained a lot of extra territory to compensate for the loss here, and also the fact that black used a point losing co-threat early on. So these combined is definitely going to overcompensate for white's loss over here, because white stones were already dead to start with. Black only saved the 3 stones over here. So at this point, the points difference is absolutely huge for professional players. And at this point, Tu Xiaoyu decided to resign. And I think it's a very reasonable moment to resign. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first game between Ke Jie and Tu Xiaoyu in the Chinese Go Sage Cup. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The second game is on its way. I will see you guys in the next one.